Hi, I'm Jim Thomason of Bassett Software. That's Stan the Basset Hound, and today I'm going to show you TextBucket. TextBucket's a place for us to store all those frequently used snippets of text that we seem to go through every day. I mean, whenever you find yourself typing the same thing over and over and over again, or maybe it's virtually the same thing, but just with a couple of small changes, those are the things that are great to put into TextBucket because otherwise we don't really have a good place to store them. I mean, we can put them in clippings or have extra text files that we open up and copy and paste things, or maybe we just retype it every single time. But that's slow and error prone and silly, and we can do it better. And so this is where TextBucket helps us out. When you launch it, by default, we'll get you get this welcome screen, which shows you some information about it. General use, offers to bring up the help, and otherwise just says let's begin. And here you can see the main TextBucket window. It's got these tabs across the top. You've got 26 tabs, one for each letter, and then each tab has 10 slots, 0 through 9. So this gives you a total of 260 spots to store information. And it seems a little arbitrary at first, but the reason is it's fast access. We want to be able to get at our stuff as quick as we can, get back to work. So, for example, here we'll start off. I'm on tab B, which you can get to the tabs very quickly just by typing the letter. So I'll hit a B to get to tab B, and then here we've got something called an email response template. So I'm going to bring up TextEdit here, which everybody has on their Mac, and you'll notice as soon as I switched over to TextEdit, TextBucket disappeared. We can keep it up on the screen. I'll show you how to do that later. But by default, unless you're actively using it, it stays out of your way. It only appears when you need it, and it vanishes as soon as you're done. So say you were typing an email to a client, and you've got a standard thing that you always do, and you might say, dear Stan the Basset Hound, I think that I should sell you, and then I forget what it's supposed to be next. So I'll, go open up a file somewhere, and it'll say, dear, name of client, and I hope all is well at name of company, and things like that. And then you'll need to remember to go through and change name of client to Stan the Basset Hound, and name of company to Bassett Software. And if you don't, you're in big trouble because you end up sending out what's obviously a form mail to your client, and that's just no good at all. Instead, this is something that TextBucket can help us with. So I'll bring it up. You can go to the TextBucket menu and choose Activate TextBucket. But most of the time, you're going to do this via a hotkey combination because you don't want to take your hands off the keyboard and use the mouse. That's going to take time. You're in the middle of typing. We want to keep typing. So by default, you can hit Command Option Control B, and that pops up the window. You can also change that in the preferences, which I'll cover in a little bit. So we want to send out an email, so we'll get onto tab B. I'll hit a B, and then we want to send the email response template, so I'll press the number 3. And the cool thing here is that the way that this snippet of text is set up is it's got macros in it, so it'll prompt me for the values that I need. So I can just type in Stan the Basset Hound, and he works at Bassett Software, and he's interested in treat delivery. So I can type all this in and hit go, and it automatically pastes it all. It pastes it all into my document for me, and it pre-populates everything. It says, okay, Stan the Basset Hound and Bassett Software and treat delivery and contact me. So that way I don't need to worry about copying and pasting this from somewhere, or maybe missing the name when I'm filling it in. It does it all for me. So I'll go back to TextBucket here, and we can take a closer look at this. If you hover over something, you get a little pop-up that contains the contents, and then what I'm also going to do here is I'll control click on it, or right click, and I can hit edit this slot, which pops up an editor window for us. So you can see that this is where we get a lot of additional options that we can set for our snippets of text. I titled it email response template, and TextBucket macros by default start off with M and a pound sign and end with another pound, and then whatever's in the middle there is what it prompts you to say. These can also be customized via the preferences. If you're constantly typing M pound normally, it might be a little irritating to have that in TextBucket, so you can change that. Um, but so this is just the standard contact force, and there are a couple of additional options here that you probably wouldn't be using for email purposes, but you certainly can. For example, the text that gets populated here isn't necessarily a static value, although it might be. Oops. So here let's pop into slot 0 and say just this is some text that I always want to paste into place for some reason. So I've got that. So now I'll hit back to text bucket or text edit, make that go away. Bring up text bucket, go to tab B, hit a 0, and that pastes it in. So that's something static for us. So then I'll bring it up. Okay, so I've got something static, and then I can say this is something that gets changed every time, and I put that in a macro. So now when I hit 0 again, it'll prompt and say what's the changed value, and I'll say it's something new. And then this is some text I always want to place, and this is something that gets something new every time. So it update it. So you can already see how you can prompt you how it can prompt you for things. But in addition to that, you can also, I'm sorry, let me bring my slide back up. There are additional options for more advanced users. You can actually execute what's in here as a script on the command line. TextBucket comes with built-in support for Perl, Python, Ruby, and AppleScript, but you can set up in the preferences anything else you want. For more advanced editing, I'll show you some of that in a little bit. When it's done, you can have it send the results, whatever's in here to the clipboard. I don't know why my window's bouncing around so much, to the clipboard, so you can paste it into the application that you're using. You can have it automatically sent back to the application that you're using, which is what I've been doing here. So it automatically goes into place, and I don't need to do anything else. And then there are a couple of options for more advanced users, which I'm not going to go into at the moment. They pop up assuming that you have the Growl framework installed. Now, I do keep talking about some advanced options like this, and keep saying, well, it's good for programmers. It's a really excellent programmer utility. I mean, obviously, I just set it up and used it for my email response template because it is general purpose. But naturally, here we are programmers, so we tend to skew towards the programming side of things. Now, if you've done any amount of Cocoa programming, you'll especially in the Objective-C 1.0 days, before we had fancy things like properties and synthesized methods, you tended to type a lot of boilerplate code. So say you had an attribute called foobar in your object, because programmers love things called foobar. You might, and we'll say it's a string. And those of you that are watching that aren't programmers, don't worry about the details about what I'm saying. Just watch how I'm using TextBucket to